Imagine this. Some spoiled, entitled heir waltzes into your home, your personal space, and announces that he's taking your wife away for the weekend. And just when you think it couldn't get worse, he starts throwing around threats like he owns the world. My first instinct was to wipe that smug look off his face with a punch, but I handled it differently. Because real revenge isn't loud. It's patient, calculated, and precise. Besides, I made a fortune off the divorce. Trust me, you'll want to hear this. That Thursday's afternoon, I had just finished loading my tools into my truck after another exhausting day on the job. For 2 weeks, I've been dealing with a client who couldn't make up his mind about a custom staircase. Because of his constant back and forth, my schedule suddenly cleared up for the next day. I'm Alfie Albertson, 35 years old, a craftsman, and the owner of a boutique carpentry business that specializes in high-end, custom staircases. My clients? The ultra-wealthy mansion owners, luxury hotels, upscale restaurants, and corporate offices. These are people who don't think twice about dropping $50,000 or more on a one-of-a-kind staircase. I've been married to Lillian Elmers, a 28-year-old attorney who specializes in commercial and intellectual property law, for 4 years. She's sharp, ambitious, and completely career-obsessed. That's why we've put off starting a family. She insisted on establishing herself at her firm, Gimson Brickman and Goldman, before anything else. When I pulled into the driveway at 4 p.m., I was surprised to see Lillian's car already there. That wasn't normal on Thursdays. She usually stayed late, getting a head start on next week's workload. Curious, I let myself in through the back door, like I always did after work. The water pressure was lower than usual, making me wonder if she was upstairs in the shower, something out of character for her since she preferred showering either in the morning or before bed. After changing into something comfortable, I headed upstairs to check on things. Sure enough, Lillian had just finished showering and was getting ready. She was slipping on black fishnet stockings, and on the bed lay a sleek new black dress. Hey, babe, what's going on? Did I forget something? Are we going out tonight? I asked, keeping my voice casual even as my mind raced. She let out a deep sigh before answering. No, Alfie, you didn't forget anything. I'm going out tonight. And you're not coming. I'll be back Sunday afternoon. I'm spending the weekend with Oscar Gimson. I froze. What do you mean? Is this a work trip? My brain scrambling to make sense of what she had just said. No, she replied, her tone colder than I had ever heard it. It's not for work. Oscar booked a suite for us. I'll see you next week. This weekend is for him. Her words hit me like a gut punch. You're joking, right? Lillian, you can't seriously think you can just leave for the weekend with another man. What the hell is this? She met my eyes with an icy stare. You need to get used to this, Alfie. This is how Oscar wants it. I stood there, stunned, barely able to process what she was saying. So, let me get this straight. You expect me to sit here and accept this? And then what? Pretend it never happened next week? Her lips curled into a smug smile. I never said it was just a one-time thing, Alfie. Oscar hinted that this could become a regular arrangement. You'll have an easier time if you learn to accept it. A sharp wave of anger surged through me. Lillian, you'd better think this through. If you think for 1 second that I'm going to let some arrogant rich boy walk into my life and treat me like I don't exist, you're in for a rude awakening. But she didn't care. She kept getting ready like I wasn't even there, as if my words were nothing more than background noise. Frustrated, I stormed downstairs, yanked open the fridge, and grabbed a beer. I needed to cool off, to think. Just as I cracked it open, I heard the low hum of a luxury engine pulling up outside. A sleek black Mercedes. Oscar Gimson had arrived. This wasn't my first run-in with him. We'd met a few years back at one of Christmas parties. He was exactly the type of guy I couldn't stand, mid-40s, always dressed like he was about to close a billion-dollar deal, and overflowing with arrogance. Women fawned over him, and he played right into it, soaking up the attention. Meanwhile, he treated most men like they were invisible. Lillian came down the stairs, clearly annoyed, and opened the door before Oscar even had to knock. Sorry for the wait, Oscar, she cooed, her voice softer, sweeter, completely different from the way she spoke to me. My husband seems to have misplaced his manners. Oscar stepped inside like he owned the place. Hey, Dusty boy. Heard you've got a problem with Lillian spending the weekend with me, he barked. My patience snapping. Listen, you arrogant prick, you've got 5 seconds to get the hell out of my house before I call the cops. He laughed, a slow, mocking chuckle, and shot Lillian a knowing look. She smirked. Call the cops? Be my guest, he said, leaning back. Let's see how that plays out for you. Think they'll do anything? Think again. Then, his eyes landed on my shirt pocket. Wait a second. Are you recording me? Before I could react, he reached over, snatched my phone, and took a quick look at the locked screen. Then, with a careless flick of his wrist, he tossed it onto the floor. The screen shattered against the ceramic tiles. His voice dropped to a low, calculated tone. Listen up, you pathetic nobody. Lillian is spending the weekend with me. Like it or not. He stepped closer. She'll be with me whenever I want her to be. And let me make something crystal clear. Your opinions? They don't matter. If you try to interfere, you'll regret it. If I hear so much as a whisper about you causing trouble, if you try to gild her, beg her, or, God forbid, contact my wife, things will get ugly for you. Then he smiled a slow, cruel smile. Ever wondered what happens when certain files are discovered on someone's computer? Or when rumors of money laundering start spreading? It only takes a few clicks to destroy someone's reputation. And guess what? I know all about you, Alfie. I stood there, every muscle in my body rigid, but I refused to give him the reaction he wanted. Instead, I forced a casual shrug. Let him gloat. Let him feel victorious. It didn't matter, not now, not yet. Revenge was a dish best served cold, and I was not about to waste it on a moment of blind rage. Fighting him now would accomplish nothing. It would only make me look like the fool he clearly thought I was. Worse, it would give him and her the satisfaction of seeing me lose control. And I wouldn't give them that. Not today. That's easy enough to fix, I said, my voice even. Uploading something to someone's computer? A few clicks, and anyone's reputation could be destroyed. Then, I tilted my head, playing dumb. But if these files are so illegal, wouldn't you be incriminating yourself by having them? I mean, possessing them is already a crime, right? My tone was light, almost amused, like I was discussing the weather. Oscar's smirk deepened. He was enjoying this. That's where you and I are different, he said smoothly, his voice thick with condescension. What's illegal for someone like you? Well, that's perfectly fine for someone like me. People with influence, power, and the right connections don't follow the same rules. He exhaled, as if bored. So, here's my advice. Stick to your little, quaint working-class ideals, and leave the affairs of the elite to those who actually know how to play the game. Got it? I could hardly believe what I was hearing. It was so absurd, it felt like something out of a bad movie. But Oscar wasn't acting. He truly believed every word. And then, just to twist the knife a little deeper, he added, oh, and don't even think about retaliating against me or Lillian. With that, he turned toward the door and gestured for Lillian to follow. She didn't hesitate. She grabbed her overnight bag without so much as a glance in my direction, walking past me like I didn't exist. I wasn't just furious, I was stunned. But as I stood there, seething, I found myself silently thanking the burglar who had broken into my house the year before I met Lillian. That break-in had forced me to install a full-scale surveillance system, motion-sensing cameras, voice-recording microphones, all synced to a secure cloud storage. What Lillian didn't know was that the system could be activated even while we were home. And I had made sure it was running. Oscar thought he had control. He thought I was just going to roll over. But I had other plans. Thankfully, he hadn't broken my personal phone, only my business phone. Without wasting another second, I grabbed my real phone and dialed Samuel Milton. Samuel wasn't just my business lawyer. He was family. He'd married my older sister, Abigail, 10 years ago. Their happiness was tragically short-lived. Abigail drowned while on vacation in Guadeloupe. Even after losing her, Samuel stayed close. 3 years later, he found love again with Heidi. They got married after a year of dating, and Lillian, my parents, and I had all attended their wedding. Samuel and Heidi weren't just friends. They were like siblings to me. And right now, I needed someone I could trust. The moment he picked up, I took a deep breath and said, Sam, I need your help. When I told Samuel about Oscar's threats and the insanity of Lillian's so-called weekend getaway, he didn't hesitate. He assured me that he and Heidi would be at my place within the hour, bringing dinner. Stay inside, he warned. Turn off any unnecessary communication, and don't reach out to anyone. Just sit tight until we get there. While I waited, my mind replayed everything that had just happened. The realization hit hard. Lillian had traded in our marriage for Oscar's wealth and power. Everything we had built together was meaningless to her now. I couldn't help but think back to where it all started, 5 years ago. It had been at a friend's birthday party. Back then, Lillian was a total stranger to me, the sister of the birthday boy's army buddy, stationed overseas. We hit it off instantly. By the following year, we were married. At the time, I was working for Mr. Peterson, a master woodworker who ran a small business. I had originally been hired part-time in college to handle his books. Then, almost overnight, the business exploded. 3 massive contracts rolled in, more than he could handle alone. When he asked if I'd be willing to help in the field, I didn't think twice. What started as simple tasks quickly grew into something bigger. My eagerness to learn stood out, and before long, I was trusted with smaller projects of my own. I discovered I had a natural talent for the craft. Despite having a degree in accounting, I found myself drawn to the hands-on work. That passion led me to an apprenticeship, and after years of dedication, I became a certified craftsman, officially Mr. Peterson's associate. When he retired, my parents helped me buy a share of the business. Over the next 2 years, I took full ownership. Business was booming. I had even hired 2 assistants recently, and my income had surpassed that of many of Lillian's attorney friends. Yet, she remained completely blind to how successful I had become. Just then, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Samuel and Heidi, arms full of Chinese takeout and a 6-pack of beer. "Alfie, are you okay?" Heidi asked, wrapping me in a warm hug. "I can't believe Lillian did this to you. It's just not like her." She hesitated, like she wasn't sure she even believed her own words. Samuel pulled me into a firm, steadying hug. "Don't worry, man. We're going to figure this out together." During dinner, I laid out the full story, every humiliating detail of what had happened that afternoon. Afterward, I pulled out my laptop, opened the surveillance files, and hit play. The clarity was shocking. "I can't believe what I just heard," Samuel muttered. "Yeah, what a complete arrogant jerk," I said flatly. "Arrogant? More like an absolute idiot," Samuel shot back. "The guy's, what, 40? 42? With his level of experience, you'd think he'd know when to keep his mouth shut. But no, his ego is so massive, he just hands us incriminating evidence on a silver platter." I exhaled. "That's great and all, but can I even use this? I recorded it without his consent." Samuel leaned back, confident. "You're in the clear. This is your home, your property. You have every right to record anything that happens here. So, no legal risk?" I asked, needing to be sure. He hesitated slightly, then sighed. "Not exactly. Legally, you're standing on solid ground, but we have to be careful." On the drive over, I did some digging while Heidi was behind the wheel. Turns out, Gimson isn't just some rich asshole. He's the son of Albert Gimson, the founder of CBH. You knew that, right? I nodded. The name carried weight. "What you might not know," Samuel continued, "is that Albert Gimson wasn't exactly a legal genius. He didn't win cases because he was brilliant. He won because he had the right connections. Judges, prosecutors, law firm partners, most of them were his old college buddies. That network gave him an edge in almost every case. Now, Oscar? He's following the same playbook." I felt the weight of his words settle in. "That's what makes him so dangerous," Samuel added. "He's not just rich, he has influence. He has power in the courtroom that could make even the strongest case against him seem weak." "So, what? You're telling me I'm screwed no matter what I do?" I asked, frustration building. "Not screwed," Samuel corrected, his voice firm. "But it's going to be a fight. The good news? You've got me, and my connections on your side. The key here is getting solid, undeniable evidence. And I've got a plan." "But you just said the judges will side with him," I pointed out, my voice rising. "They will, unless we take this to criminal court," Samuel explained. "That's the play. We flip the script and go for criminal charges." Before I could respond, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find a petite brunette standing on the porch, holding a small bag. "Mr. Albertson?" she asked politely. "Hi, Emma. Come on in," Samuel called out, standing to greet her. "Alfie, this is Emma Jenkin. She's a computer expert from a private investigation firm I work with." As I explained Oscar's threats, especially his plan to plant incriminating material on my computer, her expression hardened. "Here's the deal," she said. "There are 2 ways Gimson might try to frame you. The first, and most likely, is that he'll try to physically access your computer. He'll alter the timestamps on files to make it look like they've been there for a while. If that happens, your surveillance system will catch it. Make sure all your cameras are recording whenever you leave the house." She reached into her bag and pulled out a small, sleek gray device. "The second possibility is remote access. If he tries to upload files from the outside, this module will detect and record every attempt. What we need to do right now is transfer all your personal and business data onto an external drive and completely wipe your computer clean. Her confidence was reassuring, and it was clear she knew exactly what she was doing. Samuel leaned forward. Let's get to work, Alfie. Right now, the only solid evidence we have is the recording. But if you go after Gimson with just that, the case could get thrown out. His connections could make it disappear. Blackmail accusations don't carry much weight in court, especially when his judge buddies are the ones making the calls. But if he actually goes through with planting illegal files on your computer, then we've got him. Even his most loyal allies won't want to be associated with him once the details come out. For the first time that day, I felt a flicker of hope. If Gimson was as reckless as he seemed, we might be able to turn the tables on him. I shook my head in disbelief. This is sick. The fact that we even have to prepare for something like this is insane. Samuel's expression darkened. Yeah, well, Gimson is that kind of sick. One more thing. Can you avoid using your computer for the next few days? If Gimson moves forward with this setup, the police will check for recent activity. If you don't use it at all, it'll be obvious that any new files didn't come from you. Also, don't let your phone connect to your home Wi-Fi. He might try to use that instead. Emma got to work immediately, installing the surveillance module. This module will track and record any attempts to access your network, she explained. I'll send updates as soon as I have something. Good luck, gentlemen. With that, she packed up her things and left. Once the tech side was handled, Samuel turned to me. Now, let's talk about the practical side of things. Do you want to start divorce proceedings immediately, or do you want to wait and see if Lillian comes to her senses when she gets back? I didn't hesitate. No, I want the divorce now. There's nothing to work out. I won't stay married to someone who's that easily manipulated by a self-important prick. I'm done. Samuel gave a firm nod. Understood. First thing tomorrow, I'll contact Samantha Kirk, our best family lawyer. She'll make sure this is handled quickly and fairly. Good, I said, relieved I wouldn't have to deal with this alone. Samuel reassured me that Samantha would reach out soon. We went over a few more details, and I gave him access to my surveillance system so he could monitor and store any new recordings. By the time Samuel and Heidi left, it was past 11 p.m., and exhaustion finally caught up with me. My mind was still racing, but I took a sleeping pill and, for the first time all day, managed to get some rest. At exactly 8:30 a.m., Samantha called. She had already spoken with Samuel and was fully briefed on the situation. I can meet you at my office at 11 a.m., she said. When I arrived, Samantha greeted me with a firm handshake. Alfie, I'm really sorry you're going through this, she said. Unfortunately, I'm familiar with Oscar Gimson's reputation. She wasted no time getting to business. The good news is that since you purchased your home before marrying Lillian and her name isn't on the deed, the property is yours. She has no legal claim to it. That was one weight off my shoulders. But there was still one major concern. What about my business? Could she force me to sell it and take half? Samantha didn't hesitate. She immediately called Samuel, who arrived within minutes. Relax, Alfie, Samuel said, offering a reassuring smile. Your marriage contract is solid. The company is legally yours. I let out a slow breath, relief washing over me. Samantha walked me through the financial side of the divorce. We'll serve Lillian the papers at her office on Monday, she assured me. By the time I left her office at 12:30 p.m., I felt more in control than I had in days. After replacing my broken phone, I spent the rest of the weekend in my backyard, trying to focus on something, anything, other than the wreckage of my marriage. Working with my hands had always been my escape, and now, more than ever, I needed it. Let Lillian have her weekend with Oscar. I was already building something better as Sunday evening approached. I debated whether to sleep in the guest room or make Lillian take it. In the end, the decision was easy. This was my house, and since she had walked out on me, she wasn't stepping foot in my bedroom again. I moved all her belongings into the guest room and installed a lock on my bedroom door, keeping the key in my pocket. A little before 7 p.m., I heard the hum of Gimson's car pulling into the driveway. Without hesitation, I activated the surveillance system. Lillian waved as he drove off, then turned and walked into the house like nothing had happened. I stayed where I was, pretending to read. I wasn't about to give her the satisfaction of a reaction. Hi, honey. How was your day? She asked, her tone unnaturally cheerful. Forced. Without looking up, I answered flatly, fine. Her fake smile wavered, and just like that, Her act fell apart. "Oh, great. Continue sulking, then," she snapped. "Oscar warned me you'd act like this. It's so predictable. You lack the intelligence to understand my needs or the maturity to acknowledge your own failures." I kept my gaze on the book, biting back my anger. With a huff, she stomped upstairs. I counted in my head, steadying my breathing. 1, 2, 3. "Alfie Albertson, did you put a lock on our bedroom?" she shrieked. "Correction," I called back, keeping my voice calm. "On my bedroom. Your things are in the guest room. That's where you'll stay until you find an apartment." "This is ridiculous," she fumed. "Just wait until Oscar hears about this. This wasn't part of the agreement." I frowned. "Agreement? What agreement?" My voice was laced with mock confusion. "I haven't agreed to any of your partner's nonsense. You can stay in the guest room or leave entirely. Maybe Gibson's wife has room for you in her marital bed." Silence. Then a door slammed shut. I followed her upstairs, stopping outside the guest room. "By the way," I called, "what exactly was in this agreement for me? Care to explain?" More silence. 15 minutes later, I went downstairs. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I glanced at the screen, reading the words with growing disbelief. "Gibson, what's this I hear? Alfie, you locked Lillian out of her own room? I thought I made myself clear. Even someone like you should understand. For tonight, I'll overlook your childish tantrum. Tomorrow, you'll make Lillian's favorite dinner and apologize. If you behave all week, I'll allow her to spend time with you next weekend. Fail to comply, and you'll learn just how serious my threats are. No questions. Clear?" This man was out of his damn mind. A twisted mix of arrogance, delusion, and sheer stupidity. Without responding, I took a screenshot and sent it to Samuel. His reply came 3 minutes later. "Unbelievable. This guy thinks he's untouchable, but he's just a first-rate fool. Keep all the messages intact and don't reply. Let him dig his own grave." Gibson sent a few more texts, each more ridiculous than the last. I ignored them, refusing to give him the reaction he wanted. That night, Lillian stayed in the guest room. I locked my bedroom door, ensuring the surveillance system was running. In the morning, I waited until I heard her leave before getting up and starting my day. While making coffee, I downloaded the previous night's surveillance footage. Lillian hadn't done anything suspicious, just showered in the guest bathroom and left without breakfast. As I sipped my coffee, my phone buzzed with a text from Samantha Kirk. "Hi, Alfie, just confirming that the divorce papers will be served at 10:15 this morning." Before heading to my workshop, I double-checked the surveillance system, setting it to alert me of any movement inside the house. At 11 a.m., I had a meeting with an architect for a client project. Work helped distract me, but I still half expected a call from Lillian after she got served. But my phone stayed silent. At 10:45, I texted Samuel. "Lillian hasn't called or messaged. I assume she's already spoken with Gibson. They're probably scheming." His response was immediate. "Definitely possible. I'll get Emma involved. Stay tuned." The meeting went smoothly, and I spent the afternoon organizing my workshop until 3:12 p.m., when my phone buzzed with an alert. "The show's starting." I texted Samuel. He replied with a thumbs-up emoji as I accessed the live security feed. On screen, Lillian had entered the house with another man. They headed straight to my office. The man powered on my computer, exchanged a few words with Lillian, then inserted a flash drive. He was planning something. My stomach clenched as I watched, recording every move. The cameras captured clear images of his face. Meanwhile, Lillian packed her belongings into garbage bags, probably because her suitcases were still in the master bedroom. Once the man finished, he shut down the computer, said something to her, and left. She followed shortly after. Minutes later, Samuel called. "All right, Alfie, go home and act normal." "My guess? They'll try to get the police involved either tonight or tomorrow. Be ready for a visit." "Could I get arrested?" I asked, a hint of unease creeping in. "There's always a chance," he admitted. "If it happens, stay silent. Don't answer any questions. I've already contacted Stephen Galbraith, a top-notch criminal defense lawyer. He has all your recordings." Before hanging up, I gave Samuel full access to the security system, just in case. The rest of the night passed quietly, no police, no messages from Lillian or Gibson. I made myself a sandwich and watched some TV. The next morning, while I was at the store, another security alert popped up. Someone was inside my house. I immediately texted Samuel and accessed the feed. It was the police. They were disabling my alarm. Within minutes, the system went offline. Samuel confirmed he'd seen the activity and had forwarded the images to Stephen. An hour later, 2 officers showed up at my shop. Without much fanfare, they cuffed me, read me my rights, and put me in the back of a squad car. They asked questions, but I followed Samuel's advice. I said nothing. At the station, they took my phone and wallet before placing me in a holding cell with 4 other men. No one spoke. 3 hours passed before a guard escorted me to a meeting room. I frowned. I didn't request my lawyer yet. The door opened. A man in a sharp suit stepped inside, his expression calm but authoritative. Early 40s, dark hair, serious demeanor. The guard closed the door behind him, leaving us alone. "Mr. Albertson," the man said, his voice calm and deliberate. "I'm Stephen Galbraith, your lawyer." He pulled out a legal pad and pen as he sat across from me. "I assume you already know why you're here. The situation is a mess, but I've got everything I need to get you out of this." I raised an eyebrow. "Really? So they just throw me in a cell and wait for my lawyer to show up and fix their mistake?" He gave me a thin smile. "Not exactly. But this arrest? It's a formality. They know their case is weak. They're banking on you panicking, making a mistake, or..." He glanced toward the guard station just outside the door, lowering his voice slightly. "They're using this to pressure you." His expression hardened. "But you're not going to break. You keep your mouth shut and let me handle this." I scoffed. "I haven't done anything illegal. That's what I'm here to prove," he assured me, flipping open his legal pad. "We just need to play this smart." The guard remained posted outside as Stephen took notes, methodically going over the details of my case. Just as we were getting into strategy, the door opened. Oscar Gimson strolled in like he owned the place. His smug grin stretched as wide as the Golden Gate Bridge. He took his time sitting down across from me, savoring the moment like a man who thought he'd already won. "So," he drawled, folding his hands on the table, "do you understand the gravity of your situation now?" I stared at him, silent. Oscar's smirk widened. "I asked you a question, Albertson. Answer me." Still, I said nothing. His patience snapped. "Look at you, playing tough," he sneered. "Let me spell it out for you. It's your word against mine. A carpenter versus one of the most respected lawyers in the city. Who do you think the court is going to believe?" I kept my face impassive, refusing to give him the satisfaction of a reaction. "Well," he sighed, pushing back his chair, "it seems you need some time to think. Enjoy your night in that cell. We'll chat again tomorrow." With that, he strolled out, leaving me with nothing but my growing rage and the certainty that this was far from over. Later that afternoon, I was called back to the meeting room. This time, a different man was waiting. Tall, blonde, and serious, he had the no-nonsense demeanor of someone who got things done. The moment I entered, he rose to greet me. "Good afternoon, Alfie. I'm Jonathan Croftoon. Please, just call me Jonathan." His handshake was firm, his expression reassuring. "Samuel reached out this morning, but when he couldn't get through, we figured you might have been arrested." His calm professionalism put me slightly at ease. I recounted the day's events, including Oscar's little visit. Jonathan listened carefully, his jaw tightening slightly, though he kept his composure. "All right," he said once I finished. "You'll be appearing before a judge tomorrow morning. Expect a high bail amount, but don't stress, Samuel will cover it. I won't sugarcoat it, Alfie. Spending the night here won't be easy, but stay strong. We've got this handled." I exhaled slowly. "And in the meantime?" "In the meantime, don't say a word to anyone. No matter what they ask, no matter what they try to pull, say nothing." He met my gaze, his tone firm. "I'm officially taking on your case. And I promise you, Gimson is not getting away with this." The next morning, I stood before a judge and entered a plea of not guilty to the absurd charge of possessing illegal material. Bail was set at $25,000, a ridiculous amount, but as promised, Samuel handled it. By that afternoon, I was a free man. There were conditions, of course. I wasn't allowed to leave the city or contact Lillian, Gimson, or anyone from their firm, but at least I could return to my shop and resume work. The police returned my phone and wallet, and Jonathan took me out for a late lunch to go over the next steps. I kept things vague at the station, he explained as we sat at a small, quiet diner. "But I've been digging into Oscar Gimson. Let me put your mind at ease about a few things." He leaned forward slightly. "First, the timeline of your arrest is suspicious. They picked you up before they even completed the search of your house, which is highly irregular. Second, Gimson being allowed to meet with you despite restrictions on communication? That's straight-up misconduct. This whole thing reeks of a setup, and not even a well-executed one." I frowned. "That's great. But what about his influence? You said yourself he's got powerful friends in the legal system. Jonathan's expression shifted into something almost amused. Oh, he has friends, sure. But when you make as many allies as he has, you also make enemies. And trust me, we're going to find out exactly who's been waiting for an excuse to take him down. I leaned back in my seat. I have no idea what's waiting for me at home. I just hope Lillian and her conniving partner didn't completely clean me out. Jonathan smirked. Let's find out, shall we? Justice served. Jonathan's face darkened at the mention of Lillian. If they took anything, we'll make sure they regret it. Gibson might have money and power, but we have something better, evidence. And the law is on our side. Stick with me, Alfie. We'll take him down together. His confidence was reassuring, but it didn't erase my anxiety. I had seen firsthand how ruthless and manipulative Gibson could be. But Jonathan was right. The pieces were falling into place. I couldn't give up now. When I got home, I braced for the worst. The place was eerily quiet. Lillian's belongings were gone. No sign of Gibson's interference, at least, nothing obvious. But something felt off. I walked into my home office, my pulse quickening. My computer screen flickered in the dim light. But what made my stomach drop was the open drawer, the one where I kept my business backup drive. I rifled through it. Empty. My grip tightened around the edge of the desk. They stole it. I immediately called Jonathan. Something's off, I said without preamble. Lillian and Gibson have been here. They took my backup drive. I don't know what they're planning, but they're already ahead of me. Jonathan's voice was calm, but firm. Breathe, Alfie. We already have everything we need. The backup drive is a problem, yes, but it's not the end of the world. The real mistake they made was thinking they could get away with it. Just stay focused. We'll outmaneuver them. Later that week, Jonathan called with some unexpected good news. All charges against you have been dropped. The inspector handling your case is tough, especially on blackmail cases. He wasn't swayed by Gibson's influence, and he's filed charges against Oscar for blackmail, evidence tampering, and possession of illegal materials. And that's not all. Lillian is also being charged with conspiracy. A long breath left my chest. Finally, something that resembled justice. Shortly after, Samuel called, inviting me to dinner. On the way there, I got another call, this time from Samantha Kirk, my family lawyer. Alfie, she said, I just spoke with Lillian's attorney. She's ready to sign the divorce papers with no changes. But she has one condition. She wants a private, 1-hour meeting with you at my office. The thought of facing her again made my stomach turn. But if it sped up the process, so be it. Fine, I replied. Let's get this over with. The following Wednesday, I arrived at Samantha's office. She met me at the door, her expression serious. I don't know what Lillian plans to discuss, she warned, but remember, she still has criminal charges hanging over her. Be careful. Assume she's recording the conversation, she added. Don't say anything that could be twisted. I nodded. Got it. I stepped into the private meeting room. For a moment, I barely recognized her. She looked drained, a shell of the woman I once knew. Thank you for agreeing to meet, she said, her voice shaking. Alfie, I'm so ashamed of myself. You were an incredible husband. I said nothing. Oscar Gibson, he had me under his control. I didn't even realize how deep I was in until everything fell apart. When I heard the charges against you were dropped, and when I found out I might be facing charges, too, it woke me up. She let out a bitter laugh, wiping at her eyes. And for what? For a man who never cared about me? I know it's over. I've already resigned from my job, and I told Oscar I never want to see him again. I stood. Good luck with everything. Lillian eventually took a plea deal. She provided evidence against Gibson in exchange for a reduced sentence. She moved to another city, and after that, we never spoke again. Meanwhile, Gibson's empire crumbled. His dirty dealings became public, and 2 more victims came forward with blackmail allegations. With a mountain of evidence against him, including recordings of his threats, he was convicted and sentenced to 12 years behind bars. Once the trial ended, I filed a lawsuit against Gibson and his firm. After months of legal battles, they agreed to a $2 million settlement. I gave a portion of it to Samuel as a token of appreciation for his unwavering support. At first, he refused, but I insisted. Slowly, life got better. My business flourished. I expanded, hiring a team that felt more like family than employees. A few months later, at a barbecue with Samuel and Heidi, I met Heidi's younger sister, Grace. We hit it off instantly. For the first time in a long time, I felt something new. Hope. Weeks later, with the civil case settled, I paid Gimson a visit in prison. The guard led him into the room, his expression filled with pure hatred when he saw me. His eyes burned with rage. "What do you want, Albertson?" I laughed. "Relax, Gimson. I just wanted to remind you how spectacularly stupid you are. You thought you were untouchable." I gestured to his orange jumpsuit. "That orange jumpsuit really suits you, doesn't it? Makes you look even more grand." I let the smirk widen. "Heard your wife, Vanessa, filed for divorce. Maybe I'll take her out to dinner, show her a good time." Gimson's fists clenched. His face turned crimson. "You bastard," he growled, standing up in fury. "Don't waste your breath." I cut him off, still grinning. "I've already done that. By the way, Vanessa's hummingbird tattoo on her upper thigh? Very charming, don't you think?" He lunged, but the guard shoved him back. As I walked out, I never looked back. The future was waiting, and I had no intention of carrying old ghosts with me.